Chapter 3, Mishnah 1. A mikveh must consist of water that collects by natural means, for example by rainwater naturally flowing into it. Water that was put into a container is known as she'uvin, literally drawn water, and is not fit for a mikveh. However, once a mikveh is completely filled with the minimum 40 sah of rainwater, it is a valid mikveh, and can never be invalidated by the addition of she'uvin. On the other hand, if there are less than 40 sah of rainwater in the mikveh, and 3 lugin, approximately 1 to 2 quarts or liters of she'uvin, are added to it, the mikveh is disqualified, and remains disqualified regardless of how much rainwater enters the mikveh afterwards. See Chapter 2, Mishnah 4. The Mishnah begins by discussing a case where there were 2 mikvaos, one next to each other. Each mikveh by itself contained less than 40 sah of rainwater and less than 3 lugin of she'uvin. They then became mixed, becoming one mikveh. We now turn to the words of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi says, if there are 2 mikvaos, neither of which contains 40 sah, and 1.5 lugin of she'uvin water fell into one, and 1.5 lugin of she'uvin water fell into the other. And then the mikvahs became mixed, e.g. through the removal of a partition that separated the 2 mikvaos. The combined mikvahs are valid because they were never designated as disqualified. Since the original mikvahs had less than 3 lugin of she'uvin in each one was valid. That is, had each of the original mikvaos had been filled with rainwater until it contained 40 sah, it would have been a kosher mikveh. Therefore, once they combine into a single mikveh of 40 sah, the combined mikveh is kosher. Rabbi Yossi continues, but if there is a single mikveh that does not contain 40 sah of rainwater, and 3 lugin of she'uvin fell into it, thus disqualifying the mikveh, and the mikveh was then divided into 2 smaller mikvaos by making a partition in it, the mikveh remains disqualified, even though the 3 lugin are now divided between the 2 new mikvaos, so that neither of them has 3 lugin of she'uvin in it. This is because the original mikveh had already been designated as disqualified. All of the rainwater in the original mikveh became disqualified when the she'uvin fell in. Thus, adding rainwater to these new mikvaos to bring them up to 40 sah would not make them valid. The Mishnah cites a Tana who disagrees with Rabbi Yossi's ruling in the second case. But Rabbi Yeshua rules that 2 smaller mikvaos are valid, since Rabbi Yeshua would say, any mikveh that does not contain 40 sah of rainwater, and exactly 3 lugin of she'uvin fell into it, and then even a kortav, a very small measure, of water went out from the mikveh, it is valid, because the mikveh now contains less than 3 lugin of she'uvin. We assume that the kortav that was removed from the mikveh contained a small amount of she'uvin, so that there are no longer 3 complete lugin of she'uvin. Once these are no longer 3 complete lugin of she'uvin in the mikveh, it is no longer disqualified. Similarly, in Rabbi Yossi's second case, once the original mikveh was divided in 2, neither mikveh contains 3 lugin of she'uvin. The mikvahs are therefore not disqualified. And as soon as more rainwater is added to them, bring them up to 40 sah, they are both valid mikvaos. But the sages say, the mikveh remains disqualified, as Rabbi Yossi ruled, until its full original contents go out of it plus a little more. That is, the amount of rainwater that was in the mikveh before the addition of the 3 lugin of she'uvin plus a little more, which will certainly include some she'uvin, must go out of the mikveh. The she'uvin that is left, which is less than 3 lugin, will not disqualify the mikveh. It is not enough to remove a kortav from the mikveh, because all the water in the mikveh was disqualified when the 3 lugin of she'uvin fell in.